Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show, where we go across country and travel the world with members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. Let's go. Welcome, everybody. You know, every second Friday, we get to chat with a travel writer that is a member of the International Food, Wine, and Travel Writers Association that we call IFWTWA. It's an easier way to say that big mouthful, which is really cool because they have awesome members who are writers and then also destinations. So we get to go around the world and across the country. And today we're going to go to Nova Scotia and find out about an awesome national park. And we're excited to have MaryRose Denton back on the show. She's based up in the Pacific Northwest, but you can go check out her website and keep up with her adventures. Now I'm not going to say it correctly. So MaryRose, you get to say it.
Okay.
Welcome back, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's MarikaiTravels.org.
And see, I love this though. So Marikai, that's Meraki, and everyone, that link is in the episode notes, as well as MaryRose has a great article, and you can see the pictures and everything linked up, which is up on our nationalparktraveling.com site, but it's also linked in the episode notes. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that. I know we talked about that last year when you were on talking about Ireland, which I want to hear about too, because you were on your way there. But tell everybody a little bit about what that means, Marikai.
Well, Marikai is a word that I believe it's of Greek origin, but it means putting passion or love into everything that you do. And so that's just a philosophy of life for me, and I apply that to my travel and travel writing as much as I do my other career as a massage therapist for 30 years. So, yeah, and it also, my tagline on the website is also sort of a motto of wonder is everyday pursuit. So that kind of goes with the theme of Marikai.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. So what took you to Nova Scotia?
Well, actually, it was a press trip. And so we were hosted by the Muir Hotel in downtown Halifax, an amazing hotel if anyone gets a chance to stay there and try out some of their excursions. They do a great excursion out across the valley into the agricultural wine centers, as well as we did one on the Titanic. So that was pretty cool history to learn about. But Nova Scotia itself, we decided to extend our stay and go up on our own into Cape Breton. And one of the reasons was because going into the Cape Breton Highlands National Park, and we wanted to do this night sky hike. And it was a brand new, just rolled it out, and we were their first hikers to go on what's called Stars on the Plateau. And our guides were Darcy and Emily, and they were both Cape Breton Parks Canada Rangers.
Oh, that's cool though, because if you get to be with the actual rangers, you get all the gossip of what's going on in the park. I mean, I every national park we go to, and that's what we do full time, is you want to meet the park rangers and you want to have that experience with them because, you can go on your own, absolutely, right, and do things, and you want to do that, but I think if you have some rangers and guides with you at the beginning, you start to really have more of a understanding of what you're experiencing and what the terrain is, the plants, the bugs, the animals, the sky. You got some sky stuff going on your visit, but isn't it cool to be with rangers?
Absolutely it is. I mean, that's one question a couple of people asked me is, well, why don't you just do the hike and look up at the sky? But what Darcy provided was a very integrated excursion doing exactly what you talked about. We talked about the local vegetation, which is very different than what we're used to on the West Coast. And then also he talked a lot about indigenous history of the area. And then as the sky darkened and night set upon us, we were able to talk about It was mostly the general constellations. He did a story about the Big Dipper, but um,
Hmm.
still, it was very cool to kind of look at it from a different perspective than just going out there on your own and kind of looking up at the sky as you did so.
Hmm. Did, because you're up in the Pacific Northwest, right? So you're kind of like on this complete opposite end of the North American continent, but
Yeah.
almost on latitude lines, right? Almost, but not quite. So did
Yes,
you
that's true.
find any similarities and connections? I know
Yep.
definitely the indigenous people connection, there's that. And then, the sky, we share that. But did you feel any kind of connection because of those latitude lines?
The weather.
Ah,
The weather was very similar to the Pacific Northwest.
mm,
I would say perhaps a smidge cooler, but not by very much. And in fact, the week that we were there, unfortunately, it was a tad rainy, but we're used to rain, so that didn't bother us too much. Um, the one thing that was slightly different in Halifax was the fog. Um, the fog there was very different than what we have in the Pacific Northwest generally. I can't say always, but
hmm
it's much, much denser. And that was interesting. And it would come in every morning. So,
Ooh,
um,
I love that though.
yeah, yeah, it was very mysterious. And but Cape Breton was very similar in terrain as well as obviously it's very green, and the Northwest is very green. If you're I'm on the west coast of Washington, so that's green, where of course, the eastern side of the mountains is not so green. So not all of the Pacific Northwest is green, but it did feel a lot like home that way.
That's cool though. I mean, it's like different, but then you still kind of feel comfy, right? In a way, so you understand that. So you can actually, I think in a way it's nice, especially when it comes to weather, that you already know how to deal with it. You know what I mean? So that you
True,
can actually
true.
just dive in and enjoy it and have a good time and not be for other people, maybe, whoa. But, I just
Well,
love that you're going.
I think
Yeah,
it
go ahead.
also it kind of shows you that connection, like you were talking about, we're opposite ends of the continent, but you feel that connection from wherever you go, that there's something um, the same or similar to places as well as to human nature that occupies it.
Mm. It's interesting. Yeah. It's really interesting. And did you find that connection between the people and the plants and the wildlife, the nature, that kind of connective spirit? I always find that in national parks, but I have not been to one personally as an adult in Canada or Nova Scotia or anything like that. But I always, in all the parks we visit, I always find that when you get into the indigenous roots of the people and you start to really understand those ties, they really understood the plants. They understood how the wildlife moved. They understood the weather, and they really kind of had this coexistence that I think we need to kind of return to personally. That's just my own personal stuff, but that's when I go to a national park, I really feel that. Did you feel that kind of history and like then now and future kind of merge in one place?
Oh, absolutely. And I think Darcy did a really great job using the Stars on the Plateau event tour. It was a hike that we did. So you
Mm,
walk up through what's called an Acadian forest, which is a little more tree lined. And then you come out into this open plateau area. It's very open. The plants are more shrub like. And so you don't have tall trees. And so the view is totally unobstructed view, looking out across the fault line and across the valley. And it makes the sky feel even bigger, a little.
mm,
But what was cool about what he did too was he read us a story that had indigenous roots. It was called Mewin and the Seven Bird Hunters, and that's also in the article I wrote. So if you wanted to tag that into some of your notes, you could for people. But
mm,
what like a lot of indigenous stories, it not only explains the formation of the Big Dipper, it gives
Mm,
explanation to what stars you're looking at, but it also has in it a richness of life and life lessons and about connection and about uh, being there for each other and helping each other. So that's true
mm.
wherever you go. And as you said, when you look up at the sky, you're seeing the same stars.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's really cool when you can get it to a place where you can actually see them too.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
we don't all get to see that, depending on where we live.
right.
So to be able to experience that, I think is still pretty magical and rare these days, to have that
Yeah.
kind of pristine nature
Well,
experience.
dark sky areas are becoming more popular. There's one in Oregon that's become extremely popular. I know there's some more over in the high deserts because of, less light pollution. And I do think that brings people a sense of being very connected with what they're seeing, but also that sense of awe of, in a way, perhaps how small we are too. But there's just something very grand about it that leaves people
Hmm.
with a magical feeling.
Yeah. No, no, no. It's humbling and at the same time just awe-inspiring, right? At the same time, while you're watching all of this,
Yeah,
it's just, you
perfect.
feel so little, but then you're like, wow, I'm part of this, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a little
that
mind
is,
blowing.
yeah, no, but I love that you had this experience. But then the fact is too, I mean, you went hiking in a forest, you saw a wetland. I mean, wetlands to me are always, I love wetlands and I
Yeah.
love water birds and ducks and everything. So
Yeah. That
that
was
had to
around
be pretty cool.
that's around what's called Paquette Lake. And yeah, it was a nice little stop there as you go up the Mica Hill Trail. And
Mm.
so it definitely gives you a sense of the different types of environment that are there in the Cape Breton National Park.
That's cool. I want to go. You know,
You
tell
should
tell
go.
us. Yeah, yeah. So what getting there, where did you stay overnight and like for people to know to fly there and go to do this experience? It's kind of some of those logistical things that we need to all look at.
Sure. Well, probably the easiest thing to do if you're flying in is to fly into Halifax. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we stayed at the Muir Hotel, so you could maybe treat yourself to a nice um, evening there and then rent a car. And Cape Breton is north of Halifax, so you're going to need to drive. Um, and we stayed in an Airbnb, and that's actually, if you just go on the app of that, if that was something you were interested in, um,
Hmm.
you can find, depending on which part of the park you want to go to, because it takes up a good part of the northern section of Cape Breton. You can find Airbnb depending on which part you want to stay near. And from there, we had directions from Emily, one of the park rangers. I had been in contact with her, so we had the directions, and we met
Mm.
them. We met them at the top of the forest road that leads to Mica Hill Trail, and there's very clearly marked signs. Let me tell you, the Canadian national parks are not only was the trail like pristine, but it was meticulously done. It was a really great trail, easy trail to walk on, and all the signage is extremely clear. So I don't think anybody would have any problems finding whichever hike they wanted to do. Um, Another hike I could suggest was or is the Skyline Trail, which is on the other side from where this trail is of the park. But that's a stunning, beautiful trail to do. It does have a lot of stairs, so people would need to know that. But it walks
Mm.
you up. It's a trail that takes you up the side of a cliff, and it's
Mm.
just stunning. Um, but anyway, back to the Mica Hill Trail, which was also stunning.
Yeah, no, that's cool
Going up
though.
the plateau, um, there's so many areas of the park, as you know, from going to national parks that you can explore. And then when you're done exploring, you can drive back down to Halifax, return your rental car, and hop on a plane home.
Wow. Well, that's just like there it is. Like
Hmm.
this magical, it is like a magical spot, huh? You glad you went?
Oh, I'm totally glad I went. I've always wanted to see Nova Scotia, and so now I have. I will go back because I would like to do Prince Edward Island.
I know I've heard that that is awesome too, right? But
Hmm.
now, because it's kind of like English, like, in a way, kind of
Hmm.
feels
It is.
like that kind of terrain.
Yep.
Now, what about the bird life? I want to ask about that
I mean,
because,
they call it the Cape Breton Highland National Park
yeah,
for a reason. It does sort of have the Highland look of Scotland.
yeah. Did you get puffins out there? I don't know if there's
There
puffins.
are puffins. We did not go out to see any, and I'll tell you why. About 2 weeks before we left on this trip, here in Northwest Washington, we also it's a different puffin, but we do have puffins, and it's not the Atlantic puffin, obviously. But we had just gone on a puffin excursion, so we decided to spend our time trying to see things we don't normally see.
Hmm. Wow. Well, puffins, I spend time doing things that we don't normally see all the time. Well, it's like a
That's right.
constant. Like
Yeah,
one, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to do a repeat if you can do something new,
right.
and I don't know, we're always chasing that. And
Exactly.
people look at us like we're nuts and we're just like, no, I mean, if you're going to enjoy life, go do it.
Right.
How do we get to come back? Maybe we do, but will it be
But
a
there,
same experience? You know?
yes, there's another kind of connection. I mean, like I said, they're different puffins. Off of Cape Breton, you have the Atlantic puffin.
Hmm.
Off the Northwest, we had the crested puffin. So, you know,
Huh.
but
We never
same with
got to see
whales.
them.
Here we have whales too. We have orcas. Um,
Mm,
but, and we also have gray whales and humpbacks come through. And there they have whales too. But there are different whales that you can see that you
hmm.
don't normally see in another place.
That's cool. And the orcas, I mean, you guys in the Pacific Northwest, I mean, they're starting to actually come back, which is exciting. And
They
I've been
are.
been
Yeah. And
listening
a
to
really
so much about them.
a really huge thing that just happened was on the Klamath River. They took the dams down, and so just a couple days ago, there was an article put out that the first salmon have seen returning to the river, and that's down in Oregon.
Oh,
But it feeds those salmon are the salmon that the resident pods of orcas here in the Northwest will feed off of. So
that's
that's a good thing. That's a very
yeah, no, it's getting better, I think. And to hear what's going on for the actual the orcas too, how they're starting to really come back, I think is exciting to see, and how scientists are like, all the biologists are watching how they play with each other and how intelligent they are, so I think that's an exciting part of what's going on is just, some of these rules we put in place actually do help, you know, and to
yeah.
see
It
that,
might take a little time, but hopefully
yeah,
it does
they're,
have
they're,
a positive effect.
yeah, they're still endangered, they're still in that bracket, but they're getting closer and closer and they like to play with people and everyone. They're actually not whales. They're dolphins. They're actually more in that class, not a whale. They just, they got the name killer whale because they played games and messed around with other things, but they're not whales. They're dolphins. And it's hard to imagine, but they are. And it's like, wow. So we learned all these new things as they come back and through the conservation, movements. And you're right in the heart of it. So I love that you went to both sides, and you're living in one and can do both, and have that kind of connection because it
Mhm.
is interesting to me. Did you find in the indigenous connection too? It's got to be that as well,
Oh,
you know?
that was fascinating to hear about the Mi'kmaq tribes there, and like I said, the story that he read. Um, but it does. I mean, I don't know if you do this, but I start to relate things um, from your own past experiences, and so I was relating some of those stories and some of the culture to the indigenous culture we have here along the Salish Sea. Um,
Mm,
but they're different. They're different climates. They, ate different things. They um, had different trees to work with. They, to make canoes or to hunt or um, so there are differences as well as similarities.
mm. Yeah, no, that is cool. I want to go out there.
But
You got me all excited.
I really appreciated how Darcy, when on the Stars on the Plateau tour, he
Mm,
connected that indigenous piece. That was a very big part of what he talked about.
yeah, I think because it also tells the stories, of the people and just connecting. Like I said, that coexistence, right?
Right.
That
Plus, the stars are pretty ancient and that connects us all the way back, right?
I know this
Time
is magical.
immemorial. Yeah.
It just seems like you had this really cool magical experience.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, I loved it.
Oh man. So you
The
got
only thing I would have changed is it was very cold. So,
well, but you're supposed to handle this. You're from the Pacific Northwest. You
yeah,
should
but like
be
I said,
cool then.
it was colder than we expected, and up there, I mean, you are in a little bit of a higher elevation, so
Mm,
I mean, it wasn't snowy cold, it wasn't that kind of cold, but it got pretty chilly after the sun went down. And we did have blankets. What would have been nice, so a tip that I would give is,
mm.
pack a thermos of hot chocolate or something to help keep you warm.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I know. And yeah. And then when you get back to your, um, vacation rental or your hotel, you can have a little toddy to really warm you back up, right? You can do
That's
that,
right.
but take that flask. But what's interesting to me, you talk about how it gets chilly and everything, but you actually saw fireflies,
We did. It was the
and I
first
always
time
think
I'd
that
ever
they're going to be
seen fireflies.
in the I didn't think they would be there,
Oh,
you know.
I don't know that.
Well,
Yeah.
I just didn't know. I always
I was
thought there were more in
totally
the south,
entranced with that because I mean, we don't have fireflies here, so I had never seen them. And I'm like, oh,
Aren't they
then
amazing?
I was looking for them everywhere.
They're amazing. And all they're doing, they're flashing. That's the males showing off their lights to kind of attract women and
That's
go,
what I
come on, look
understood.
at my light. You want to see my
Mhm.
bright, shiny butt? You know,
I shine brighter than he does.
yeah, look at me. And then they go off in the trees and do their thing. And fireflies are cool, man. That is like that, I look at them as like the forest fairies, they're so cool to just sit out and watch. It's like, wow. And they put on such a good show. So that is so cool because you're looking up at the stars and then you look down and then there's fireflies. So it's kind
Well,
of like you're surrounded.
they weren't on the plateau. They were
Mm,
more so the plateau is that shrubbery
hmm
type of landscape. So they were definitely more when we got back to the thicker tree lines and closer to,
mm.
which also came down in elevation just slightly.
Oh, yeah,
So
that makes sense then.
I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but
Mm,
they were definitely more um, closer to the parking area when we returned.
mm. And you heard owls too.
We
That's
did,
cool.
yeah. I, I'm not sure we figured out which type, but there were a couple owls doing a call and response.
This is so cool. This is really cool. Well, everyone, I was going to say, Mary Rose has got a great article and everyone can read, all the different hikes that you're talking about and understand that you want to do this really in the summer, right? When
Yes.
the park is only open for what, mid-May or is it open year
Um,
round? Well,
no,
there's a trail.
no,
It's the
yeah,
trails that are closed. certain
The
trails are closed.
yeah, the Mica Hill Trail is what is, let's see, I think it opens, like you said, mid-May and then through September, maybe slightly into the beginning of October.
Mm.
And you can check the Parks Canada website, but what I understood from Darcy is that they're doing this particular Stars on the Plateau from late June to mid-October, kind
Mm.
of playing it by ear as far as how late they'll go, only due to weather, right? So
Right.
some years it might go as late as early, close up as early as September. Others it might go late into October. We
Mm.
did it the very last week in June, and it was cold and rainy. But that doesn't
Wow.
mean it would be cold and rainy next year. So,
Wow. 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 So, this is the thing. It's just, but plan now. Start planning now for your trip,
now,
depending on where
yeah,
you're coming from.
yeah.
Yeah. This is so cool. It's pretty. And so, where is your next destination? I mean, it's going to get cold where you are now.
Right. We
It's time for you to go away somewhere. I'm just saying. You're a
well,
travel writer. It's time to go.
we live in kind of a temperate climate actually, so I'm good with
Oh, cool.
And we just got back from Wallace, Idaho, where we did another hike, just speaking of hikes, called the Ed
Cool.
Pulaski Hike Trail. And
Hmm.
that has a lot of history tied into the Big Burn of 1910, but perhaps that could be a different show, Lisa. So,
I know. You're
so
going to
we did,
start getting me on. You're going to take me on a different trail.
yeah, so a different trail. So we did just get back from that, and we're going to settle in for a couple months here at home. We'll be spending some time out at the ocean around the holidays. But for 2025, it might see us down in Arizona as well
Hmm.
as British Columbia. And then towards the end of 2025, in the fall time or autumn, we're going to Newfoundland. So
Oh, cool.
partially to see the fall colors and
Hmm.
also partially for some history again. And I have
Hmm.
some family there, so we'll do some family
Hmm.
visits.
This sounds cool. And there's dogs out there too. I'm just saying. The Newfoundland. Anyway,
Oh,
yeah, I get into
yeah,
it's a dog
Newfoundland.
breed.
Yeah,
They
they're
do have them. They
yeah.
do.
Hmm.
Yeah, but well, this is interesting about you is like you seem to get that connection between nature and history. And I know I touched on that in the beginning of the conversation, but that's something we find everywhere we go is that connection. And
Oh, yeah.
it's really special when you get both because then we understand how because people live according to nature and their natural environment, right? So it's kind of cool that, you seem to understand that as you travel and seem to have a penchant for that and, doing both.
Oh, well, thank you. I would hope so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody's got their different thing. So, I mean, that seems to be part of your, way of travel is to understand some history and,
Oh,
getting out there on trails. And I don't know any parks that don't have history in them.
oh, it's just rich in history. And I write a lot about history, um, as well as agriculture. So I suppose that's tying those two aspects
Yeah, that
together.
does tie together. It makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, it's always good having you on the show. And before
Oh,
you go,
thank
I want to
you.
know what happened in Ireland because you were on that podcast panel discussion we had,
Yep.
and you were on your way, and others had been there. And so, what I want to know, did you have a good time? Number one, and I know the answer, but did you have a good time?
We had a fabulous time. The thing that I always bring home with me, and my partner Richard would say the same thing, is again about the connections you make. We always
Mm,
leave um, with the best part of the trip are the people that you meet and those type
mm,
of connections. And I would say with Ireland, that was especially true. All the
mm.
people we met, as well as the places we saw, we did a lot of history, and but you come home with those connections to the people and the friends you've made.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. So the people,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it is all connected. You know, it's it's all connected. Everything. It's all connected.
It was such a major trip. I mean, we were there a month. So I'm still writing stories about it.
Well, that's cool. See, that's the thing. I always find that too. Everywhere we go, I'm like, well, there's another story. There's another story. There's another story. It's like you feel like you could write a book when you leave somewhere, but then you're not there long enough to actually write the book. You
Right.
know?
I get you on that one. So, I mean, most of those stories are up on my website. If people would like to read those, I still have some coming out, including one on a history piece on the pirate queen, Grace O'Malley. So
Ooh,
that would be an interesting read. And
ooh, I want to read about her.
we visited
That's cool.
three of her castles that she occupied during her lifetime. So,
That's cool. That's cool.
yeah.
So give everyone your website so people know. You get to
Again,
say it again.
it's Maraki
Marikai.
org.
Yeah.
So it's MERAKI and then travels.org.
Very cool. So everyone can go there and keep up with all your different stories and follow you everywhere you go. Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much. It's been fun. And I know that it's great. You know, we always love chatting with our IFWTWA travel writer friends. And you didn't go to the conference, did you? Or did
I
you?
did not. We were
Oh,
traveling towards Idaho. So
ah. Well, hopefully next year. I hear rumors that it's going to be in Louisiana, in
that's what
Lafayette.
I've heard those rumors too. And I just want to
Ooh,
thank you for the opportunity to be here as well that you give to all the IFTWA writers.
it's fun. It's fun. It's fun for our listeners. It's fun for us. I'm always like, can I go there now? Like you guys went here. I want to go there now. And I can't, I want to be everywhere all the time, but so if I could be everywhere at one place at one time, you know what I mean? I would do it, but it's,
That'd just be
not,
amazing.
I know I just wish you could click your fingers and get there and not even have to get on an airplane, quite frankly, you
Right.
know, wouldn't that be nice to just click your fingers and know that would be pretty good. So Elon Musk, why don't you start working on that
Ah,
next? We can Starlink ourselves somewhere. Who knows? But no, I love that that you're focusing also on national park destinations. I think that's really important that people know about these pristine places and why we protect them. And when people go to these places, that maybe they'll do some more to make sure they stay protected. So thank you for doing that. And
right.
everyone, thank you for joining us here on Big Blend Radio. You can go to IFWTWA.org to learn more about the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. It's so cool because you guys go everywhere and I love following hashtag IFTWA. So I see where you guys go. Every day I take like a little break, a coffee break, or sometimes it's wine time, sit back and click on that hashtag and just check out where all the travel writers have been. And then I go like,
Fun.
okay, I need to go there. Yeah. If you want a little armchair travel, I encourage people to do it. Have you ever done that? Just sit back and look at IFTWA. It's pretty crazy.
I
You go
have taken
everywhere.
a look at the hashtags as well as just the general site, and it is very inspiring.
Yeah, I know. It's like, again, we want to be everywhere now, all at once. But we can have our cake at times. Well, thank you so much. It is a pleasure to have you back on the show, Mary Rose. You take care and safe and happy travels for your next adventure.
All right, you stay safe too, Lisa. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show featuring members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. We encourage you to visit their website. We say IFTWA, which is IFWTWA.org. You can also follow us at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels, everyone!